Welcome into the studio, guys. Today I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what I do for myself and when I have time for my clients here to get the body warmed up for lower body training. It's a 5-step framework. It's going to take about 5 minutes for you to do this on your own. And I honestly think that when it comes to warming up, if you're allocating more than 5 to 10 minutes to get prepped for your sessions, then frankly, this is just my opinion, your warm-up is not efficient. I think over time, your warm-up should become shorter and shorter and shorter. And as you become more athletic, more fit, get better mobility, get more strength, the amount of time spent between when you walk in the gym and when you get to your first exercise should get smaller and smaller. If your warm-up just keeps getting longer and longer and longer, something's wrong, you're probably not responding well to it, and you might just be looping in a bunch of fluff. So, before we get into the 5 things I'd like to do, let's start with what I call step 0. And step 0 is aerobic fitness. So when it comes to getting ready for any session, it's a good idea to elevate your tissue temperature. And you guys might know this, but the body technically is supposed to hover around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about the temperature of your body. And muscles contract better at a little bit above that 98.6 degree line. So a warm-up, a cardio warm-up, is quite literally designed to warm up your tissue temperature. So before you get into your quote-unquote primer, your prep work, all the stuff we're going to show, I would allocate like 5 to 10 minutes to some low-level cardio. Can be rower, can be bike, can be treadmill, can be walking, can be jogging, can be running, can be Stairmaster, to elevate the temperature of your tissue. A lot of people also use phrases like get the blood flowing. You've probably heard get the blood flowing. I'm definitely a fan of that too. So 5 to 10 minutes here at most, and then you are right into the 5-step framework. For the lower body, the first thing I work on with almost every single client is unlocking the hips, and I'm going to show you my favorite go-to movement for this. If it's a squat focus session, if it's a deadlift focus session, even if you're not there yet and you're just training legs for the first time perhaps, hip mobility is critical. It's kind of the gateway for everything that you do. The more mobile your hips, the better you're going to move. And year after year after year, I fall more in love with this movement. It is the 90-90 hip switch. I love this. So first things first in our 5-step lower body framework, attacking the most important joint, that would be the hip. And so I have a 90 degree at the ankle, 90 degree at the knee, 90 degree at the hip, same thing here. Hands behind me for support, and for approximately 1 minute, you're gonna do all of these movements for about 1 minute. That's why it's a 5-minute lower body warm-up. I'm gonna turn side to side, allowing my hips to change from a state of internal rotation, and on this side, external rotation, and we're flipping. So we're opening up our groin, our adductor. We're actually moving the ball and socket joint of the hip through its range of motion, getting the cobwebs out of there, getting to a point where hopefully if I'm squatting, if I'm lunging, and if I'm hinging, I don't have too much inhibition and too much restriction there. The second joint we want to attack in our lower body prep work, in our lower body warm-up, is actually, a lot of you are probably thinking, it's going to be the knee, right? We just did the hip, it's going to be the knee. I don't do too much to mobilize the knee. Here's why. The ankle is a very mobile joint. The knee is a very stable joint. The hip is a very mobile joint. So just like the upper body, wrist super mobile, elbow super stable, shoulder super mobile, I'm looking to stabilize these joints here and mobilize these joints here. So we're actually moving to the ankle. And I think there's 2 things that you can do here. I would say that you have options, but truthfully, I think it just depends on how restricted your ankles are. If you have decent ankle mobility, and I will say decent ankle mobility means from this position here, you can get your knee out over your toe, then you're doing calf raises. You can do these loaded, and honestly, I would do them for about 1 minute. And I'm just doing body weight here, contracting at the top, allowing myself to move into a full stretch at the bottom. Contracting at the top, full stretch at the bottom. This is going to help with dorsiflexion getting more mobility. If you are too restricted to get your knee out over your toe, then what I want you to do is just this stretch right here. Some people call this a combat stretch. I just like to call it a calf stretch. If you're very, very much lacking for mobility, you can also just do a basic calf stretch by propping up the front foot. But we need to mobilize the ankle. Specifically, that calf tends to be tight, so it's 1 minute of calf raises, combat stretch, or we're over here and we're doing this. Now, once we've unlocked the two most important joints for most of these lower body movements, the hips and the ankles, I like to have stability at the knee joint. And quite frankly, I think that the posterior chain is a little bit more important to prep. So I oftentimes will go into something for my hamstrings. And I have this hamstring roller here, which I absolutely love for this particular outcome. I think it's wonderful for warm-ups. If you have a lying hamstring curl machine, you can use that too. I got this from John Meadows, the late John Meadows, Mountain Dog, many of you might know him as. He was huge on hitting the hamstrings and the knee flexors, these muscles right here, before squatting. And most of my lower body sessions include some type of squat, some type of lunge. And I've always felt, since I've done this, that the response I get and the way my movements feel is way better than when I don't do this. So we've unlocked the hips, we've unlocked the ankles. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into some hamstring curls, specifically some light knee flexion to pump the hamstrings and get some stability into the knees. Now this is also nice because there's a component of hip extension. So I get some glutes, I get some core. But this is really to get some blood flow into the muscles around our knee to help you kind of get some stability here. And I'm telling you, if you normally just go right into the gym and jump like straight on the squat rack and it just feels okay, and you add in like one set of 15 to 20 rep hamstring curls or about a minute of those, it makes a huge, huge difference. So we've mobilized the hips and the ankles, and now we've created more stability around the knee by priming that kind of posterior chain. The fourth thing that we want to do in this warm-up series is activate our nervous system. And I'm going to show you two ways that I like to do that. So the first would just be with a high velocity sled drive, okay? So that's going to train triple extension, which means ankle, knee, and hip. All of those joints are going to extend. If you push this as hard as you could for about, let's say, 20 seconds down, 20 seconds back, you're going to get your nervous system fully prepped and primed. You're thinking speed, you're thinking power, you're thinking explosiveness. I don't want my first set of anything I do today to feel slow. I want to feel powerful. And so a strong, rapid sled drive to activate the nervous system, very effective tool. Let's talk about some other tools if you don't have a sled. I really like the depth jump because it's a full, again, triple extension. I'm extending the ankles, knees, and hips. Force production is more vertical. On a sled, it's more horizontal. But I'm simply stepping down, landing, and jumping as high as I can. Power, power, power. First thing we did, unlock the hips. Second thing we did, unlock the ankles. Third thing we did, prep the posterior chain, very important. Fourth thing we did, prep the nervous system, get it excited. Fifth piece of the puzzle for your lower body movement prep is get into your first exercise and do a warm-up set or 2 or 3. So if we're squatting, and squat's what's called for on the day, I'm not getting right to my working weight. My goal is to get under the bar and do a warm-up set or 2. So if I know I'm there's another pro tip for you actually. If you're squatting with a hood on, it's gonna be a problem because the bar is gonna sit too high on your back. So we're gonna front squat for the sake of this video. I'm gonna do a set, core tight, back flat, focus on form, control the eccentric, explode up. And if my starting weight on front squats is 225, I'm probably gonna do 5 to 10 reps with the bar, 3 to 5 reps with 135, 2 to 3 reps with 185, and then get right into my working set. So that 5-step framework, again, we start with step 0, something to warm up aerobically. Get your tissue temperature prepped, get the blood flowing, so to speak. Second thing, hip mobilization. I love the 90-90. If that doesn't work for you, you can also try something like the couch stretch. And another really popular thing people will do is they will use something like a foam roller to roll the IT bands, to roll the quads. And while I don't think rolling around your hips is as good of a hip mobility movement as active mobility, better than nothing. Second step, ankle mobility, have to have it, especially if you're squatting and lunging. Third thing, prime the posterior chain. I love hamstring curls for that specifically. Fourth thing, something explosive, something dynamic to get your nervous system going and get yourself ready to perform. And then lastly, just get into your warm-up sets. I think if nothing else, this is probably the most important piece, the warm-up sets. And in a perfect world, your warm-up's gonna get shorter and shorter and shorter as you get fitter and fitter and fitter, and you'll spend more time on the actual lifting itself. I think if you start adding millions of little tiny things into your warm-up, it can become a counterproductive, despite feeling very intuitive, it can be very counterproductive. You just end up adding things in and over-preparing, and then by the time you get to the main show, you're already tired or kind of bored, or you've just allocated way too much time to warming up. That is my 5-step framework for warming up the lower body. I think this works for pretty much everybody. It will save you a ton of time, and remember, it really is just 5 things for 1 minute each. And if you add in 5 minutes of cardio, that's only 10 minutes of warm-up time, and I think that's all most of you need. If you need more easy tips like this, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified when more videos like this go live on the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.